We are live. Welcome back, everyone. It's a warm, hot day. Today's my daughter's 4th birthday, so I want to wish her a happy birthday, and I hope everyone's doing well. And today we are doing Matthew 19. All right, let's see what this Jesus guy has to say for today. You want to start off with a prayer?
Our Father, thank you so much for bringing us together to come read your words and understand what you have to teach us. I pray that we all could open our minds and our hearts to these words of yours so that we could learn from it as you will it to be. Thank you for all of us here, Jason, Benny, Irene, and also to Benny's daughter. And hopefully Isaiah and JC will join us and we could all learn together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay.
You want to go recap 18 or anything? Or you want to
Let
start?
me take a quick glance. Talks about to be like children, lost sheep.
Yeah, I think in 19 we'll kind of touch up again that Elise's race,
Mm.
line that Jesus had spoken in 18.
Yeah, so last time he kind of talks about a little bit about heaven, right?
Yeah, using the child as the example. And the child's like humility
And also church. What
Yeah.
church, he defines what he thinks church should be.
yeah,
Any
kind of the
others?
formulative foundation, I guess, in the
Mhm.
church.
Okay, and forgiveness.
Yeah.
All right. 19:1. Jesus heals many. And it come to pass that when Jesus had finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came across the coast of Judea beyond Jordan. And great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. More healings. 3. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying to him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, Have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? And said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore there are no more twain, but one flesh. And where therefore God hath joined together, let not a man put asunder. They say unto him, Why did Moses then command to give writing of divorcement and put her away? He said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffer you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whoso marrieth her, which is put away, doth commit adultery. His disciples say unto him, If the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. And he said unto them, All men cannot receive the same, save they to whom it is given. And there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there would be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Okay?
Mm-hmm. From 1 to 12, right?
Yeah.
1 to 12, yeah.
Yeah, so this was like during when Jesus was leaving, he was kind of basing Galilee the majority of the time,
Mhm.
in Nazareth, and we saw like the state at Capernaum and stuff like that. He's leaving there now to go to Jerusalem down south.
Okay.
And this is basically his last entry to Jerusalem, because we'll be heading into the Passion Week after this.
Oh, getting there, huh?
Yeah, we're almost there.
Didn't we read something like this before? I think it was John, right?
Most likely John.
Yeah, about marriage, like you don't divorce.
Oh no, that was in Matthew as well.
There's a Matthew?
Yeah, it was still part of the Sermon on the Mount thing.
Oh, okay.
And then we kind of, I think JC or Isaiah kind of alluded to this this chapter. I know maybe even Irene did. I forgot, but oh no, he was just asking about the divorce when we heard about it before. We heard about it in like chapter 5 or 6 of Matthew.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were sorry for it. He answered and said, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? So he's talking about father, right? So he, Adam and Eve, more or less. Right?
Yeah.
He said, for this cause shall man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Jason, New International, what does they say for 4?
For 4?
Yeah. 19:4.
19.
And he
Yeah,
answered
fine,
and
fine.
said unto them,
5, right?
Yeah,
Be not to be.
And it said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife,
Yes.
and the
this is
two will become one flesh.
create.
Okay, he's just saying
Yeah.
man and woman is meant to be together.
Beginning,
Yeah, this was kind of.
beginning made them male and female. Not right now, male
For
and
this
male
reason,
and male.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
This is not God.
Yeah, and these were based off of in scripture Genesis 1:27 and 2:24. 1:27.
So some Pharisees came to him to test him. They asked, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason? Haven't you read, he replied, that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate.
wherefore there are no more twain,
There are no more
We
twain.
can see the
the one flesh. Therefore God has joined together, let no man divorce them. That's what you got there.
And so for Genesis
First it
1:27.
came tempting, wait, Carazzo type.
Can we check? Can we check the
So God
Corin-
created the knowledge and
Corinthian.
and male and female created them.
Corinthians.
Corinthians? Yeah,
Therefore
chapter 7.
Shall man leave his father and he shall cleave to his
To divorce
7.
his wife. Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife at every cause?
Calling
So they say unto him, why did Moses then command to give writing of divorcement and put her away?
Corinthians,
Mhm.
Corinthians, chapter 7, verse 15.
Corinthian?
Yeah.
Verse 15.
7:15. 1 Corinthians. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage. 7:15. 1 Corinthians or 2nd?
Calling, first, not second. Corinthians 7,
15.
yeah, chapter 7.
Okay, but
Verse
if the
15.
unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God hath called us to peace.
Yeah, the Paul say the couple, if they the man or female have another girl or another boy, this one, and this is who?
Jason.
Jesse. Yeah. There is a sin. This sin. Let them go. So the 15th, that mean Paul say they believe the God. Let them go.
But if they don't believe, let them
They don't,
depart.
let me transfer. I'm sorry.哦 ，Jesse， 嗨，你好，我们在看19章，马太19章。
他在开车。
哦，在开车。哦，I'm sorry， 你再看我不知道。
马太福音19章 Matthew 19, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was bringing. We're going over the first part of it, where you know the just about the divorcement, and she's bringing up Corinthians chapter 7, verse 15, about the unbelievers. And
Yeah.
Yeah. But trying to see where she's going with this.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep going until she finds it. 7. They said to him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and put it away? What's he referring to? What are they referring to?
Just like a certificate of divorcement.
But the Pharisees are saying, hey, Moses gave a command. Which command is he talking? What are they talking about?
Deuteronomy 24:1.
When a man had taken a wife, married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her bill of divorcement, give it in her hand, and send her out of the house. Okay, so what was it? And it come to pass that he find no favor in his eyes, because he has found some unclean. Oh, so according to Deuteronomy 24:1, if a man finds no favor in his eyes and he found cleanliness in her, then he can divorce her. So my question is, what is favor in his eyes and what is uncleanness?
So at this point, you know, it seemed like the Jews were kind of using like any type of excuse for divorcement if they didn't want to be with the wife anymore. You know, like
If that's the
that.
case, I mean, would male divorcing wife prevalent? No, right?
I think it was back then.
Okay.
JC, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed from like, you know, the research that it seemed to be kind of a common practice when, you know, they just, yeah.
Were they getting divorced left and right? So I mean, I'm curious, and when they say uncleanness, it has to mean something. It's just like you can't just like, oh, you got a booger in your nose. I'm getting a divorce, right?
But it seemed like, yeah, again, from some of my research,
And
stuff
I know
that
the
they were
Jews-
using, you know, like stupid reasons just for
Really?
divorcement, yeah.
Okay.
And that's why, kind of like, you know, as Jason was translating NIV, you know, to put her away, like, for any and every cause and stuff like that. So it's like, it just basically opens up the whole book for it.
Right.
You know, I don't like it anymore because you smell bad or something, you know what I mean?
Or you got nasty toenails, you know, that's unclean, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, according to Deuteronomy, you can just basically get a divorce for any reason, right?
Well, it says like in 9, I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another woman commits adultery.
Sexual immorality.
So basically, if like you're divorcing your wife for anything besides cheating on you, it's adultery.
Right.
Yeah.
He said that before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess like the Pharisees misunderstood that Moses did not command divorce, but he just allowed it because of the hardness of their hearts. And what was that? Hardness of
Is
their
this
hearts.
Deuteronomy? Is it Moses talking?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, and there's Malachi 2:16. For the Lord Israel, he has said that he has put away for one covereth violence with his garment. So the Lord hosts, therefore take heed your spirit and that you can. What?
Exactly. That's why I had an ESV and
Okay.
NIV. You might want to just read the NIV on this one because that was
Alright.
hard passage.
NIV. The man who hates and divorces his wife, says Lord, the God of Israel, does violence to the one he should protect. Okay. So be on your guard and do not be unfaithful.
Yeah, just like what Jason was saying about verse 9. You know, he just gave the one
Fornication. I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder what the Greek was.
porneia.
Porneia, sexual immorality.
Yeah, like adultery and just a whole bunch of other things, and I just left it at that. But yeah,
Sexual immorality. That is so subjective,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it also like.
How about sodomy? Dude?
That's part of that.
Even if it's
That's part of porneia,
So if the husband has
incest as well.
anal sex with his wife, who committed adultery?
I guess they both did.
They both did.
This is a
Corinthians
Corinthians
7:15.
7:15. That he explained this. You can read it.
There are two possibilities that are controversial, and Paul is only sure if the spouse that does not believe it is not necessary to stay. According to the statement, if the other party turns back, the Meridian's spouse should still fulfill the marriage contract. Unbelieving spouses can leave, and the confidence of faith is no longer bound by this marriage. According to this view, the abandoned believers can be married.
Okay.
Yeah, most of
So,
us.
so no butt sex.
What?
I mean, yeah, that falls under the
Immoral.
morals,
How
sexual
about
immorality,
oral sex? How about a hand job?
probably as well.
Really?
Possibly,
What are you
yeah.
talking about?
Talking about the Greek word
Well, I guess like what
porn.
Penny's kind of
porneia.
wondering, like what other acts would fall into sexual immorality.
Right, because I guess the
But isn't
translation
that-
is sexual immorality. So I'm like, okay, what? Adultery is sexual immorality. How about anal sex? He says yes. Well, how about oral sex? How about a hand job? Are those considered immorality too?
Yeah, I mean that's. I think it's just. Yeah. We could probably go.
So
on
again,
for-
it's still open up to interpretation, right? So essentially, the Pharisees are referring to Deuteronomy 24:1,
correct.
I guess, right? And this, which is essentially you can divorce for any reason. So the Pharisees are saying to Jesus, "Hey, what's your opinion on divorce?" And Jesus says, "Well, God created man and woman, and they're meant to be together, so don't get a divorce." And then 7 it says, "Well, then why would Moses write Deuteronomy 24:1, where it says it's okay to get a divorce just about any reason you like, right?"
Yeah,
And
but
then
the
Jesus
eight-
responds with the same thing he said before, which is, well, in 9, he says, except for
Well,
infidelity.
yeah.
Well, if we read the King James
If you read
Bible, it's
8th version,
adultery,
Yeah.
right? Adultery to us meaning you have sexual relationship with another person outside of that marriage. But I guess the Greek word is porneia, which is just sexual immorality,
I mean that's just
including
fornication.
but not limited to adultery. But I guess in this context, he's talking about our modern version definition of adultery, because it's like,
Most likely, though.
yeah.
So you're talking about 9 story.
We're talking about 9.
So it says, I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is, so wait, what are you saying? Except for sexual immorality, what does that mean to you?
Right, but in
You're
this
trying to think
context-
like, oh, so like, except for hand jobs, except for anal, except
Uh-huh.
for this and that. Is that what you're trying to say?
I was saying what would be considered sexual immorality? Hand jobs or blow jobs?
I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, like let's just say for example, except for blowjobs, and marries another woman, commits adultery. So that's like kind of like your definition of it.
Well, no, I don't have a definition. I'm asking if there is, according to the Judeo-Christian.
Because what I was thinking was, it's just like if you, because my interpretation is like if you divorce your wife for anything besides her being sexually like immoral, like cheating, like basically just cheating,
Yeah, I
it's
think
kind of like
most-
adultery.
Yeah, it sounds like it just.
That's how I interpret it. But then when you start throwing in, oh, except for anal blowjobs, and it's like, what? Now I'm like confused. Like, wait, what? So you can divorce your wife, but if she's into anal and you guys are doing anal, it's like you're free to divorce her. That's kind of like your interpretation.
I'm saying, would that be a possibility?
I want to say that they use that again, the Greek word porneia, like, it covers a lot of, it could cover a lot of categories,
Mhm.
but in this context that Jesus was
It's
speaking,
just purely
I think it
infidelity.
was more, with
Yeah.
infidelity.
Agreed. Yeah.
But yeah, they would use that word probably for if they were describing other acts as well. You know what I mean?
Then let's go to 8. He said unto Moses, because of the hardness of your heart suffer you to put away your wives. From the beginning it was not so. What New International say? 8.
8.
Yeah.
Jesus replied, Moses permitted you to divorce your wife because your hearts were hard, but it was not this way from the beginning.
Okay, so essentially Jesus is superseding Deuteronomy, right? He's saying, well, Moses might have said this, but he said that because you guys are a bunch of stubborn pricks, and it was not meant to be. Right? That's essentially what 8 is saying.
Kind of, yeah. Because again, like it wasn't that Moses commanded divorce.
Right.
It never says, like, as you can see in the verse there, he never commanded it. He just said, go ahead, just write a bill of divorcement then.
Well, yeah, he didn't compel. He says you can if you want to. He says because Deuteronomy is it's more about the laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So essentially saying, given the circumstances, you can if you want to. He's not saying you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you choose to, that's considered that's kosher. Yeah, I find 8 interesting because it's like, hey, yeah, what these guys, Pharisees is like, well, what about Moses? This guy we've been listening and following to for hundreds of years. Like, yeah, he said that because you guys were stubborn.
Yeah,
But that's not really what he meant.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also in Genesis, and like I said, when I listed these, Genesis 2:24, they shall be one flesh, and this was like God saying this, and it's kind of like basically the whole point is like since God ordained marriage, human efforts to dissolve it basically constitute an attack on God's own work. So
Okay. 10. His disciples said, if the case of a man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. Huh? Help me out, Jason. 10.
The disciple said to him, if this is the situation between a husband and wife, it is better not to marry.
Wait, what? Okay.
If the case of the man
Okay, so
with his
disciples.
wife, it is
Jesus'
not
disciples?
good to marry.
So Jesus comes out and says, you can't divorce your wife unless she's cheating on you. And the disciple says, well, if that's the case, well, might as well not get married. Because we're all about sticking our love stick in as many honey pot as possible.
I think it was also more the fact that, again, how like the Jews would use any excuse back then to divorce and stuff like that. Like, oh, I don't love her anymore, in a sense, like, let me divorce her. But the only exception that Jesus allowed truly for divorcement would be for fornication, or for sexual immorality. So they might be thinking like, oh man, like, how do we know, like, this woman is the one, even aside from, she's not cheating on me or anything, but what if I just don't love her anymore? And that's kind of like what I believe they're addressing is like, oh man, it might just be better not to get married as opposed to, being stuck in an unhappily married.
Even Jesus' own followers didn't like hearing this from Jesus. Right. He's like, well, if that's the case, then we don't want to get married. Nobody wants to get married.
I think, just because, they don't want to be stuck in an unhappy marriage, find out that,
Mm-hmm. Who does, right?
But,
Jesse say what?
huh?
What Jesse say?
He didn't say anything.
Do you have any input, Jason?
No, I think you're right. Sounds like the discussion is going in the right direction. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Yeah, I remember
It
this
is
one.
yeah.
If you had anything else to say about it.
Okay, let's see what Jesus replies back. 11. And he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. Help. 11.
Jesus replied, not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs, eunuchs
Yeah, this is another fun one.
who were born that way. For there are eunuchs who are born that way,
Mhm,
and there are eunuchs whom have been made eunuchs by others,
mhm,
and there are those who choose to live like eunuchs
mhm.
for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept it.
But what?
The one who can accept this should accept it.
And what he's meaning by this is the saying that, you know, it's not good to marry. So when he says, we have 10 click.
He that is able to receive it, let him receive it.
Yeah, all men cannot receive the saying, meaning the saying that it's not good to marry. That's the saying that that Jesus is referring to in verse 11. And then again, when he says at the end of 12, he that is able to receive it, let him receive it, regarding to this saying again.
So we see it. What's it? Is it
The saying
okay?
that is not good to marry. And that's why he brought up, like, you know, the eunuchs. Eunuchs who were born that way with some type of physical complication or,
Right.
you know, physical castration or the last one, you know, taking a vow of celibacy. Those are the ones who could who would be able to take the vow of celibacy would be the ones who could receive this saying. Others who can't take that vow of celibacy cannot receive that saying.
And the saying will be
It is not good to marry.
okay.
Basically,
so he's-
don't get married. Yeah.
So he's telling everyone to get married.
No, he's not saying either to get married or not get married, but whoever could receive the saying of don't get married, let him receive it. But most people can't receive that saying because they want to
And
get married and, you know, have a family and do all the things that a husband
Okay, so
and wife would do.
essentially he's saying unless you're a eunuch,
Unless
then-
you're, yeah, or you choose to be a eunuch
then
By
you
vow
can
cel-
if you're a eunuch or you choose to be a eunuch,
or made a eunuch.
then you can say it's
Then-
bad to get married.
No, then you could accept. Well,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, not, I guess, literally like that, but like, you know, just the whole concept of marriage, I guess. You know what I mean? Like,
so if you're not a eunuch, then you're not allowed to say.
No, I think
It
he's
is
just using
bad.
that as an example.
No, I'm confused. Like, what is he saying? Is he saying that?
Okay, so I think it goes like this, right?
Uh,
Jesus says, dude, you can't get divorced unless like your wife cheats on you.
Right, right,
It's not for anything else, right? And then
right,
the disciples are saying like, dude, then why even get married to begin with?
right, right.
And I think what Jesus
And
is
then he
saying is
says-
like, dude, all right, look, so for example, there are some people out there who want to get married, but they can't even get married.
Right.
There are some people out there who don't want to get married and don't get married. There's some people out there that, you know, choose to get married, some people out there that don't choose to get married. Everybody just do your thing. I think it's basically what it is. It's not really up to everybody's choice to, like, you know, things just kind of have like a natural order of, you know.
Is that what he's saying?
I think so. It's like kind of like eunuchs, right? He's saying some people were born like that, and like, you know, some people were made like that. So it's kind of like, wait, what is a eunuch?
Well, eunuch is someone without a dick.
Yeah.
balls.
So he's saying, I think so. He's saying like, you know, somebody who's born without balls, like
Right,
he can't even do it if he wanted to.
right.
He has no choice. You know, there's some people that could do it, but then all of a sudden they get their balls chopped off. Now they can't do it. And then there's some people that, like, you know,
Choose that
Who-
vow of celibacy, yeah.
yeah, it's like they just. So it's basically he's just saying like some people have a choice, some people don't have a choice. Some people, it's just kind of like I think do your thing. You know what I mean?
And that's why he said in 11, all men cannot receive. He could also say some men can receive it, but some can't. You know, that's another way of saying that.
It's
you
like
know.
it's kind of like, dude,
And
if
it's being the message of
Just basically not marrying. You know, some people
okay,
desire to get married and stuff like that. Some people don't have this desire to get married. Some people can't get married because there's not a woman that would want to take them because they don't have the organs for reproduction and whatnot.
Chapter 19,
Mhm.
12.
Yeah.
Yes, explained here.
Okay.
You can read it.
This means some people cannot live a sexual life because of their natural disabilities or because of a special gift from God. They can stay unmarried for life and not sin sexually. Jesus pointed to two other reasons that was either being castrated or choosing to concentrate rather than getting caught up in the married life.
Yeah, two kind of people. And the one is the Lawrence. I show the books. The Lawrence, the Saint,
Oh.
the Saint,
Uh-huh.
Saint Lawrence, and he is single. For he wanted to serve
Serve God.
God.
Yeah.
And if you cannot marry,
Yeah.
don't sin.
Yeah.
And I think Acts chapter 8 and 27.
And it does not necessarily say Jesus says that not everyone is able to receive this same. Most likely meaning that it is better not to get married.
Oh yeah. The eunuchs.
8:27.
Only those who
Yeah.
have the ability to not get married are able to do so.
Yeah, so a lot of I guess those who were made eunuchs of men, a lot of those people were also like officials in royalty and stuff like that, and I guess like they made them eunuchs so that way they wouldn't have any type of temptation to do something with the female royalties and stuff like that. And it seemed like through some of my other research, reading through other chapters and stuff like that, like sometimes they just use the word eunuch just for official, but I don't know if those officials were actually physically eunuchs or they were just
Most
kind of
likely.
termed, most likely, but some haven't
Okay.
been like necessarily confirmed that they were physically eunuchs.
Okay, I'm going to read this. The disciples have said, perhaps somewhat flippantly, that if God does not allow divorce except for cases of sexual immorality, it is better not to get married in the first place. Such statement reflects the view of the time which divorce was common. Jesus does not correct their view on marriage. He does not insist that every person must get married. Instead, Jesus says that not everyone is able to receive this saying. Most likely meaning that saying that it is better not to get married. Only those who have been given the ability to not get married are able to do so. In the context of the verses that follows, it becomes clear that Jesus means that only those without a strong sexual appetite can forego getting married. Paul, who was apparently unmarried, expanded on this teaching in 1 Corinthians 7, speaking even more clearly, I wish that all that was of myself am, that each has his own gift from God, one of those kind of to another. To the unmarried and the widow I say, it is good for them to remain single as I am, but I cannot exercise. But if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry. It is better to marry than to burn with passion. Okay, so it just kind of clicked in my head that sexual activity outside marriage is forbidden, period.
Yeah, that would also be classified as pornea. Sexual immorality. So like I said,
Even if it's just like you have two grown 20-year-olds, they both are single, never married, and if they have sex, that's also a sin, right?
yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, they could even be put to death for that. Am I correct on that, JC? Or was that just something
Okay.
I'm incorrect about?
Yeah, there's some laws about like virgins in Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's usually it's if it's like willful. But I think that also has to do kind of with adultery. I'm not sure if it's just like single people who aren't betrothed to anybody. That's a good one to go look at.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything directly that states like the age. But we just assume from the rest of the Bible that sex outside of marriage is sinful.
Okay, because it almost seems like people get married because they have all these pent up sexual frustration. Those who do kind of like the Mormons nowadays, like they try not to have sex outside of marriage, and as they get married young just so they can get that out of their system. So that kind of makes more sense why he's talking about eunuchs, right? Because eunuchs are essentially someone who has no sexual desires.
Yeah, and again, what Irene pointed out with Paul and stuff like that in the Corinthians, it was kind of goes along with that too. Not the unbelieving one, but the other portions of the Torah that she had you read.
Reading a little more. Okay. Paul says something very similar in 1 Corinthians 7. He described his ability to be unmarried and unburdened by overwhelming sexual desire as a gift from God that allows him to be undistracted in his ministry. He makes it clear, though, that it is not everyone has this gift that should marry instead of burning passion and risking sexual sin.
It's kind of in line with translation. As you read.
So only a normal functioning person with a normal functioning sexual libido can utter the statement that I don't want to get married.
No, opposite. That's the person who cannot accept this message. Receive
So
this message.
only the people with no sexual desires can make the statement that I don't want to get married.
Those are the ones who can receive it. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Well, yeah, I think we're maybe looking a little bit too much into it. It's just like, again, kind of what Jason was saying is like, there will be some who choose or even don't even have the opportunity to do so because of what their limitations are, and there's some who will just do it because they want to take that vow self.
What is this? I'm not getting so. All right, give me another minute on this. So, when his disciple says, "Well, why don't we might as well not? This sucks. Might as well not get married." Essentially, Jesus is saying, unless you don't have a dick, that you're not allowed to make that statement.
No, because he's also referring to. He also gives you that third example of which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake, and that's not necessarily like literally like they went out and chopped their own testicles off. It's just
你的问题是什么？
我不了解他11、12在说什么。
Yeah, I think I think he's kind of saying like, because the disciples saying like, dude, you might as well not get married.
Right.
I think Jesus was saying like, dude, there's all sorts of different people, like you do you. You could either choose to do it, like if you don't have the means to even do it, like, dude, that's what it is then, if you choose to not do it,
so you're saying
that's you.
So you're saying his responses to each his own.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, for the most part.
Yeah, like if that's how you decide and you're just like, dude, I might as well not get married. And he's like, all right,
I don't know if
your
that's what
thing.
he's actually
But
saying.
I don't think he's saying like, yeah, everybody all do the same thing. It's like, dude, I guess if that's how you feel, you do that.
Okay.
If that's how you feel, you do that.
Answer me one more question, then we'll move on. Is he advocating for or against marriage?
Neither.
Neither.
Yeah.
I think one
So
that
you
maybe,
do you.
you know, I did kind of, come up, I did read that Bible reference meaning
Yeah.
stuff about like, the sexual desire portion of it. And it does kind of go in line with Acts, was it Acts? No, Corinthians, with what Paul said about the sexual desire. Because I guess it's like, why would you, like, if you're so passionate about this, having sex and stuff, don't let it be out of sexual immorality. Get married and then do it lawfully and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that's another thing on,
Okay.
the one who has so much like passion that just, wants to have sex so much and stuff like that, he's not going to be able to receive it. But those who, like Paul, who can forego that passion and just to serve God.
Okay, so essentially,
That he-
Jesus
he
says,
can-
don't divorce your wife unless she's been cheating on you. And people, including his disciples, heard it and says, well, that sucks. Might as well not get married. And Jesus' response is, hey, to each his own.
That's kind of how I
Is that
interpret it.
right?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay,
That's
All right.
my summarized version of it.
good enough. I'll accept. Move on. All right. Jason, would you, let's do 13 to 30.
Want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Jesus and the rich young man. And behold,
Oh, no, 13.
Jesus blessed the little children. Then were there brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked him. Jesus blesses little children. Then were there brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked him. But Jesus said, suffer little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them and departed hence. I have no idea what that even means.
Neither do I.
I have no idea what that even makes
So
sense.
basically, what they're saying is like, children were brought unto Jesus, that he should put his hands on them, meaning to bless them
Yeah.
and pray.
Hopefully.
And the disciples like, no, we gotta get going, rebuking them and stuff like that. And Jesus says like, allow these little children to come to me for, don't block them from coming to me. Let me, because these are the ones who are like the kingdom of heaven. And this was kind of alluding back to 18, 1 through 5.
Yeah.
That we read the last time,
Yeah, I remember.
when you're asking about the children.
So basically, he just blessed little children.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Well,
He was just kind of alluding back to, the humility and all that of the children.
my mind's going towards a Catholic church.
The
I wonder if any of
humility.
the,
I
any of
know.
the priests would use this freaking
There's some stuff also that.
and say, come here,
That
let me
sounds
put
wrong.
my hands on you.
Jesus said, let the
Little
little
child.
children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. When he placed his hands on them, he went on from there. Okay, so he just blessed the little children. Like, I don't
That's-
see any significance or
That's
anything
it.
in that.
Yeah, it's just like 19.
It's like they just threw in little, like,
This is
okay.
1911 to 12.
Okay, let me read some more. Thank you. Everyone needs to understand public teams, but should be applying different words to makes good. Jesus taught that in some cases people are better off not getting married. Celibacy allows them to focus on serving.
9 to 12.
Yeah, here you can read it. Read aloud.
Get some more water.
Everyone needs to understand this biblical teaching, but it should be applied in different ways depending on their circumstances and gifts. Jesus thought that in some cases, some people are better off not getting married. Celibacy allows them to focus on serving and be fruitful in the opportunities given. but for others, it is better to get married. Celibacy allows them to focus on serving and be fruitful. And the opportunities given for others is better to get married.
Keep going, Jason.
Yeah, I understand.
16, right?
Yeah.
Jesus and the rich young man. And behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Dude, I can't read this, dude. This is like too weird. I feel like it's like playing mind tricks on me. You know what I mean?
know,
I
it's-
can't like
it's not
read
easy.
these words in this order.
You need more Jesus. You need the Holy Spirit in you, son.
It's like, yeah, it's like that's exactly what it's like. Mind trick. Like this isn't normal English to me. So reading it, it's like really
It
weird.
gets, yeah, but I don't know. I was watching remember what was that we used to watch a lot? Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
I was watching like an episode the other day, and I was like listening to them talk. And it's like, you know, it kind of very similar to like how this is all written.
It's like kind of like little backwards.
Yeah, and it's like okay, and you know, just kind of keeping my, and that's what kind of helped me as you know we first started reading this King James version is like you know thinking of like you know Game of Thrones and all those people how they talk and stuff and just kind of.
But you know what's weird though, because this language came before this language, so in a sense we're now talking backwards compared to them.
Possibly, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So how did that transition happen?
The information is there on the internet if you want to know
Yeah.
how English language evolved.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because if you
there's certain
think about
things,
it,
you know, like
word backwards.
Yeah, like think of the word
Compared
like
to that.
sick. You know, before sick would mean like someone who was like you know sickly, you know, kind of
Right.
unhealthy,
Ill.
and ill, and then they're like, dude, that's sick. It's like now that means it's awesome. You
Right.
know what I mean? So it's stuff like that, or even like when we were like, you know, what, junior high, elementary school and stuff, when we were saying like, oh, that's so bad, and it's like not bad as in you know.
Bad is not meaning bad, but bad meaning good.
Right, you know what I mean. So it's like
Or the
maybe,
word
maybe it's
gay.
just something like that,
Right.
right?
I
Happened
think
throughout
a
time.
lot of that comes from criminal activity.
Possibly.
You know what I mean?
There's
How like, dude, it's like, you know, you use the word burner. You don't call it a gun. You use the word burner, so like people don't know what we're talking about.
Oh,
We
is that
say
right?
this because we don't know, so they don't know what we're talking about. They think we're talking about refrigerators, but in a sense, we're talking about ounces of cocaine. You know what I mean? But we're gonna call them refrigerators now. You know what I'm saying?
Possibly.
And it's like,
is that what cocaine's called?
no, I don't know. I'm just,
Refrigerators?
I'm just making things up. So it's like,
Okay.
eventually,
I was
like,
about to
you
take
know,
this knowledge and go on the street.
yeah. Hey, I'm looking for refrigerators.
Anybody got some fridge up in here, man?
Yeah, they're like, oh damn, you know what's up? Yeah, I got 5 for you.
Yeah. Don't mess with me. I got my burner on.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? But so eventually, it's like, you know, I think, because like, why is it that things are changing like that? You know what I'm saying?
One of the things, like the most recent ones that tripped me out is like, dude, I haven't seen you in a minute. I was like, no, it's been like, you know, a few years since I've seen you. What do you mean a minute? You know, that really has gotten to me. I'm starting to kind of.
It's like
Shake it off.
ebonics, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Language changes and evolve. It happens.
Or it's like different languages meshing together, I'm guessing.
It happens all the time. English is a meshing of Scandinavian and German language.
And you can
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, like,
And
modern
French,
English
French.
now is being meshed with, like, probably Spanish, ebonics,
Also, depending
like
on
Asian crap, like, you know what I'm saying?
and yeah, what's weird is like it may even was happening during this time because like there's you know that phrase lay hands on that has like two different definitions. One of course is like you know as we saw right here blessing.
right.
The other one is actually to lay hands to like you know get in fight.
Oh,
someone,
really?
Yeah, to strike someone. You know, so it's like there's already two meanings already in this era and stuff like that. You
Okay.
know, which is really weird.
Yeah, language is interesting if you want to become.
Yeah,
linguist.
like now, like you know that Max Holloway, he was like, yeah, dude, I'm just in the the UFC fighter. He's like, I'm just trying to get in there and bless people, meaning like knock them out.
Yeah,
you know
see,
what I mean?
he's
like he called,
the
he called
lay hands.
that's why he's called Blessed
Lay-
Holloway. Like he's just blessing people and knocking them out. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
So like laying their hands, and in their time means blessing, but in
But they also use it during this time as also for acts of
in
violence.
their time too. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was it's
Because you know
weird.
how sometimes when we talk, oh, you put hands on that guy,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
you lay your
it's the same
hands on.
thing.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's not like I bless you. That's not what we talk about.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's why it's like kind of best again. Like we try to read
Well, we try.
a
We
few
try, yeah.
verses ahead and after, so we can kind of get a better context of what what was really going on.
yeah,
Okay.
but either way, it's hard for me to read this.
Got it. Just read the words.
And behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. He said unto him, which? Jesus said, Thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor the father and honor thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The man saith unto him, All these things have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? Jesus said unto him, If thou wilt be perfect, go and sell that thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Just keep going.
Interesting. Okay, so 13, 15 is not much to it, right? He just blesses a bunch of kids.
Yeah. Seems again like it's
16 to 22.
Behold, a man came up to him, saying, Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life? He said to him, Why do you ask me about what is good? There is only one good who is good.
So in 18, he references about 5 out of the 10
Enter
commandments.
life,
Right.
keep the commandments.
Which one did he omit? The first four
He said
out
to
of the
him,
10
which
is like,
ones?
thou shalt have no God.
Basically, what's kind of interesting is when we get to
I'm more interested in what he omitted.
You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal,
because I
you
have
shall not bear false
this was my
witness,
notes from
honor your father
22,
and mother, you
which
shall
is
love
kind of
your neighbor.
interesting when we get there.
22.
Yeah.
What do I
Like these
still
are the
have
Ten
to
Commandments
say?
right there.
If you'll be perfect,
See, like the first four are basically
Yeah,
regarding God,
Right.
and the last are regarding your
Honor
neighbor.
Father, thou shalt not murder. Did he mention adultery here?
then you'll have
Okay,
treasure in
good.
heaven and come follow.
Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Well, thou shalt not. Okay, so he didn't
Truly I say,
honor the Father, right?
difficult to
Yeah.
will a rich
So
person
he skipped the first 4 and he skipped the last one. Thou shalt not covet,
Yeah.
right?
But yeah, you'll see like in 22, like when the I believe it was the Pharisees, they asked him what is like the greatest commandment. He said, of course, the first one was to love thy father, thy God, with all thy heart and all thy mind and all thy soul. And then he also added, then the second is love thy neighbor as thyself. And then when you actually kind of look at those two of his that he stated, the first one kind of incorporates these first 4 of the 10 Commandments, and the second one kind of incorporates the last 6 of the 10 Commandments, which was kind of interesting.
Kinda.
It was pretty interesting. I thought that was pretty.
Okay,
It just
well,
basically sums it all up that
Alright.
you just need 2 commandments.
Yeah, the first 4 is kind of like, it's just about,
All about God, yeah.
yeah.
So So what are you saying? There's 10 commandments and he only listed 8 of them?
5.
5.
5? What, saying that those were...
So yeah, 16 to 22, young man came to him and was like, hey, how do I get into heaven? And just mentions 5 out of the 10 commandments when fall. And the kid, young person says, well, I'm already doing all that. Well, what else do I gotta do? He's like, go sell all your stuff and give it to your poor and then come follow me. And the kid's like,
He was sorrowful.
never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Forget that. You know, he's like Meatloaf.
Yeah.
We'll do anything but that. So what's the moral of this story? Just
Well,
is there one?
yeah, we'll have to continue reading the
Okay.
because it starts getting into it in 23.
It is difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom. 23.
Hit it, Jesse.
Max was saying that, ESV was easier to read.
This read's not bad. There's also another one that I kind of came across.
What's the difference between ESV and NIV?
ESV seems to be a little bit more of a literal translation. If you go to
Literal?
yeah,
Are we supposed to do like literal translation for
I
everything,
mean,
or?
kind of yeah. So one of the things it's easier on a computer. When you go to the Bible Gateway, you can actually have 3 all next to each other, and then also on Bible references, like when you each go into each verse, they'll have it in NIV, ESV, and
All side by side?
kind of side by side, and you kind of see. And sometimes I feel like the NLT, which is like the New Living Translation, kind of has a pretty good translation, but I still kind of
Okay.
I just use it kind of to help, of course, what you've been doing.
And this might be a question for JC. Which of these versions are considered most scholarly? I know it ain't the King James, but. So is that-
Yeah, it depends. Every school is kind of different. But they tend to use the more literal ones. So it could be the NASB, the ESV, and then there are some schools that might have their kind of their own types of translations that they do. But it's really the more literal ones that the scholars use. But that's not really all that good for like just regular Bible study.
Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't it all translated from King James?
No.
NIV isn't from King James?
No.
No, NIV is directly from the original languages.
All of those versions are from the original languages?
The King James was from the Latin Vulgate, and there might be some other translations, I'm not sure, but most of the more modern ones are translated directly from the original languages.
Oh, I thought everything was translated from King James. It was just like, alright, here's an easier version of this.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's pretty interesting though, yeah.
Is there any benefits in us? Because my impression is, all of the translations are a little bit different, but more or less the message are the same.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the time, at least, right? Would you agree with that, JC?
Yeah, I would think that. Yeah, I mean, there might be some weird translations, like the Jehovah's Witnesses have their own translation.
Right.
So they interpret it in the way that they want to.
Okay.
The Mormons, I think, just added a whole bunch of stuff. But when it comes to different translations, that's why I use several. I use the ESV mostly just because it's the most recent modern literal translation. But I still use. I love the Message. I think the Message is really just straightforward, but it's not what you want to do Bible exposition with. But I would say I would have like at least one type of normal language one, like the NIV, the Message, and then one kind of more literal language, NASB or ESV, with you.
Yeah, it seems
Yeah,
like
they're mostly the same.
with King James, it's a struggle.
Yeah, that's because the language is so old, it's so archaic,
Yeah.
and if you understand it, especially if you understand their time, then you're good. The problem is, we're we're kind of in a different time, which is why they have the New King James. So that's another one that you could look at.
Okay. Are there any benefits to sticking with the OG King James?
No, I don't think so. I think, in fact, there are probably problems because it's translated from the Latin Vulgate, and because the English is so archaic.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fine. I don't mind using the King James. I just think it's better if you have that and a more modern one.
Yeah, I think I mean, as much as we're enjoying this process, it's almost like we're hurting ourselves unnecessarily. So it seems.
Yeah, but this is where love comes in, right? We do this for Isaiah, right?
But here, if you hear every week, and then yeah, totally, dude. I'm down with that. But here, all right. Well, at least I know. At least I know. Like, learn something new.
Yeah, because it's weird because it's like there's parts of it where it's like pretty normal, and then parts where it's just like completely kind of backwards, and it's like, it's like I feel like it's like scrambling my brain,
Yeah.
So, is there any significance to 16 to 22?
Yeah. Well, kind of, yeah.
Like, is there more? Because it kind of just, I read it's like, oh, he didn't want to sell all his belongings, and he just took off. That's it. Jesus didn't say, oh, that's a good person or that's a horrible person.
It's kind of similar to that. I think earlier, I forgot what chapter it was when one of the followers wasn't necessarily his disciples, one of Jesus's disciples, but said, "I will follow you, but allow me to go thank my father," and stuff like that. And we learned that basically, like he wasn't really committed to following because he had other worldly desires that he wanted to take care of first. And in a sense, this is kind of like the same thing. And then from 23 to 30, Jesus kind of expounds on that again.
Okay.
Let's give this a try. So 23, it is difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, Verily I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. And again I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. When his disciples heard it, they were exceedingly amazed, saying, Who then can be saved? But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, With men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And Jesus said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or fathers, or mothers, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
Well, this is a famous parable.
Say that a rich shall hardly enter the
He
kingdom
said,
of
Truly I say to you, the rich man hardly.
23.
This phrase is so popular, it's like encrypted to modern English Western lexicon. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle. But yet.
Yeah, and I kind of came across like there could be like 3 different references to that camel. It could be like the camel rope, I guess, like there was like a rope that was made with camel hair, and of course it still fits. Hard to get through the eye of the needle. And then there was another one, of course, the literal, just regular camel go through the eye of the needle. And then there was another one that I came across, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like I guess like gates into like cities, they have like this really small gate that requires you to kind of unload the camel to get through and stuff like that. Almost as like a checkpoint and stuff like that. So that was kind of pretty interesting piece of information I came across.
Why would Jesus say that? It's a very anti capitalist type of statement?
So there's kind of like two things to it, back in those days, those who were rich and stuff like that. Most of the Jews believe that they are rich because they were blessed somehow for doing something good and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And Jesus right now is showing like, no, that's not the case. Sometimes rich people are just rich because they may have even gotten it, the wrong way, like extortion or blah blah blah, stealing your pounds from the past, or something like that. But what I see that he is saying is that rich men or they get kind of proud that they let that kind of they have it written summarized better here.
Okay.
Wealthy people who are generally self-reliant and well provided for have a much harder time helping themselves and admitting their need even to God than those who are poor. And the same principle can apply to those who rely on their intelligence, good luck, or other attributes instead of God.
Why is this so different from the kingdom of God, which requires humility in the faith of Jesus? That and the same principle can apply to those who rely on intelligence, good luck, treasures God before idolatry. Jesus further declares that it is impossible for a human being to do any good to secure eternal life with God in heaven, but with God, all things are possible.
Yeah, and that's another, kind of like I kind of mentioned it every now and then, how like the law was meant to reveal sin, not because no one's ever going to be perfect and stuff like that. And so whatever you try to do to merit salvation yourself is not going to happen. You got to go through God, Jesus, for that.
Very nice to hear which men shall have the kingdom of heaven. And his disciples heard it, which made amazed. Who then can be saved? But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Huh?
Again, that
Okay.
kind of like what can man do to bring about
So
salvation?
23 to 26. Essentially, Jesus is saying the poor person is more humble usually, therefore can enter the heaven easier than someone who's wealthy, who was likely to be less humble. Right?
Yeah, and perhaps maybe that was one of the reasons why 13 through 15 was kind of inserted here, like where we thought it was like kind of random placement stuff. Maybe it's instead of
Yeah, well, I mean,
tying
we
this
know
thing
the
together with
pattern.
that.
Jesus likes, humility and blind submissions. But so 25, his disciples like, well, if rich people can't have a hard time getting to the heaven, then who can, right? It says, who then can be saved? And Jesus is like, oh, with men it's impossible, but with God anything is possible. So that he's not really answering the question. He's just saying anything's possible with God. Right?
Let's see if there's what the translation would be.
You mean the 21, verse 21?
26.
26?
Yeah, 26.
Mhm.
Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? Jesus said, truly I say unto you that you have followed me in the regeneration, and the Son of Man shall sit upon his throne, and glory you shall sit upon Paul's throne, judging 12 tribes of Israel.
Regeneration is like kingdom of heaven, basically. I'm just kind of looking at parallel verses 25 and 26.
Who can be saved? Yeah. Who in the world can be saved? Scroll down.
26 mean is the 21 to 25. So, Jesus said, 26, he said, with men this is impossible,
Mhm.
but with God all things. Because say 21 to 25.
Matthew.
Okay, I write here.
Can you see?
And then it also kind of goes back, like this whole thing kind of also goes back to like verse 17 or 16, when the young man asked Jesus, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life and salvation? It's like he thinks that like just by doing good works he's gonna be able to, but it's not through himself that can do it. It's only through Jesus that we could ever gain salvation and eternal life. Hey, what's up? No, hey Jason, you can see your wallet in the back or everything, right?
Disciple.
I didn't really look.
Okay, I'll take a look. We haven't looked yet. We're in the middle of Bible study. I didn't see anything. I took a quick look earlier today, just to clean things up. Okay. Give me some time. We'll take a look to see where it's at. Yeah. Okay. All right.
What?
Whose wallet?
Don't.
Somebody lost.
Donald
lost his wallet.
Wallet.
Yeah.
Oh, Donald.
Yeah.
Donald
Well,
wallet.
We'll try. I told him we're in the middle of Bible study.
It might be in the chair.
Yeah. We can look at it.
Outside?
He said maybe outside.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
He just lost it.
He just asked me, did we find a wallet outside? Let's see for sure.
Really gotta say too that you have followed me in the regeneration. With the Son of Man shall serve him. Everyone that forsaken.
Yeah, because Donald smokes those Marlboro 100s, huh?
Maybe. I don't remember for sure.
Because I saw the pack like just laying on the floor, so I was like, who's this? So I'm thinking he's like dropping things everywhere.
Can I see your notes
On
for
what?
28?
Might be similar to that. What you're reading.
Regeneration. Let's see. In the regeneration refers to future millennial kingdom where 12 apostles will judge ourselves. Okay. Those who make personal sacrifice and no blessing. Okay. 29. And everyone that has forsaken houses, brothers, sisters, mothers, wives, children, and lands for my sake shall receive hundredfold, shall inherit everlasting. Those.
You only need to believe, man. You only need to.
I like how your notes is it's like a watered down version of what he says.
I mean,
I don't know if that was consciously or subconsciously. Because he's saying in 29, he's saying like those who left their house, their brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, essentially their whole family, wife and children and land, in my name, will receive 100-fold and will inherit everlasting life. You're supposed to abandon your family for Jesus?
It's funny. So I was like talking to Max about that, and I was like, "Yo, Max."
This is not the first time he made this comment.
Yeah, and I was like talking to Max, and I was like, "Hey, man, join us for Bible study."
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, I can't, dude. I'm like, busy with the family, this and that, Then back to the, oh, you don't have time for God? He's like, oh, no, like the family, this and that. And I was like, yeah, like Christianity says, or God or the Bible says, dude, God above all, above your family. He's like,
right.
Well, it doesn't mean that my family's like at their suffering or at their expense. And I was like, well, it does kind of say that. Didn't it kind of say that? And I was like, Max, that's why I want you, with us.
Yeah.
Like, because,
leave your family, sell all your belongings, give it to the poor.
That's kind of like how we interpret it, and if that's wrong, I want, somebody to tell us, hey, yeah, that's not right. You guys have it kind of twisted. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
either that or you have it twisted. You know what I mean? So that's why
Well,
I was like, dude, join
let's
us.
see what JC still there.
Yeah, after here.
Okay. How do you explain Jesus' incessant, repeated comment on placing him above anything else and wanting people to not only abandon their worldly wealth acquisitions, but also their family? You know, of course, you could say,
I don't
"Oh,
think
he's just
He's not saying
exaggerating."
he wants to, but he's just saying like, I think
Yeah,
what he's
in
saying
some
is
way,
like,
he is saying he wants.
if that had to be made, that choice had to be made, this is the order, and I am first above all.
Sure.
I don't think it means, hey, ditch them, like get rid of them, like me above like everything first. It doesn't mean that. It just means like if you had to make a choice.
Sure,
I
yeah.
come
He's not
first.
okay. So he's not compelling people's like abandoning your family, you know,
Yeah.
but he is saying, if you want to go up there,
Yeah.
those who willing to go that extra mile in my name,
Well, it's like the order.
your reward will be higher.
I think it's a mix between both literal and
So,
kind of like
so I
metaphorical.
guess, you know, if he is God, with one of three parts of God, and he wants people to follow him, so in some ways he does want people to do this in his name. He's like, it's kind of like saying, "Hey Jason, I'm really hungry. I would really, really, really like a piece of chocolate bar."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not saying, "Hey, go out and buy me a chocolate bar." I'm like, I would really, really like a chocolate bar. The chocolate bar will make me and my tummy very, very happy. You know, so if you want to make me happy, you get up and go get a chocolate bar for me, right? And if you, of course, you don't have to. But then I was like, well, fuck this guy, right? So essentially, it's kind of like, well, I am God. If you really, really, really love me, then you'll forsake this, and that for me. You don't have to do it, but if you do it, I'm gonna reward you for it.
But
I'm gonna reward you more.
But it's also funny how you know, one of the commandments is thou shalt honor thy father and mother, and then
Right,
it
right.
would sound like, you know, he's contradicting himself with this statement right here. But yeah,
Well,
that's why I feel it's like a.
there's a plenty of contradictions.
Yeah.
We all know that.
So JC, what is
So what's your take?
Well, I think there's a couple ways. One way to look at it is kind of what you're talking about. But Jason, I think, brought up something that was important to me. And the idea is of a state of mind rather than kind of, this is what you need to do.
Mm.
In other words, Jesus isn't forcing somebody to say, hey, this is what you need to do if you want to, you know, follow me. It's just that this is what a person who follows me is like. And so, you know, I would like tell my daughter, you know, you want to be an honor student, but you can't force it. You know, you either are or, you know, you're not, based upon kind of what you do. And so it's the same thing with you know, following Jesus is the true disciples are, for example, like the missionaries who went to China, right? I mean, a lot of them were like very educated. They came from very rich families, and a lot of them gave up their lives in China, you know, to be missionaries. And so it's not like they felt forced; it's just that's what they wanted to do. It's just in their heart, they gave up everything to go. And in other words, it wasn't a struggle for them to say, well, I have to give up this. They weren't even thinking about that. Because when I was in Thailand, the missionary that I worked with, I remember asking her once, because she was sick, and I said, you know, Pauline, you know, you're from Taipei, and you're sick, and, you know, don't you kind of wish you were there where you could get, like, medical attention really quick and stuff? And her response really just blew me away for me. She just says, I don't think about it.
Right?
Because that's just, she said, I don't think about it.
Oh.
So she doesn't think about those kinds of things. Because her whole idea is, I'm just here to, you know, serve the Lord. And so I think it's a state of mind more than just kind of, you know, I'm going to force myself, I'm going to do this, you know, I'm going to, you know, not have sex with women, I'm, you know, going to fast all this time. I don't think it's like that at all. I think what Jesus is saying is, this is the characteristic of a person who follows me. And so the standard is high, that's without a doubt.
Okay.
But it's not a forced kind of standard to say, if you don't do this, then you are not my disciple. But
Right.
it's just like what you said, if you do this, then the reward is greater. So you want to be at the top, this is what it is.
Good.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done.
That's very good
JC.
explanation.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I'm glad, man. I'm just glad that, we did part of the conversation. I think, like I said,
Yeah,
I think you were saying
It's a different perspective. Yeah, it's a different perspective, and that's what this is all about. Gaining different perspectives. Okay, that's a pretty. That's his takeaway from that. We all read the same thing and came up with two very different opinions on what it is, and it could be interpreted both ways, right?
Yeah, I think all of the interpretations that we're giving right now are pretty valid. I mean, they're not off the wall.
Okay. 30. And many that first shall be last, and the last shall be first. It's another very famous verse.
Yeah.
You good, Jason? Yeah. We can do 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start? You want to start, Jason? JC?
Yeah, if we call for the rich to enter the kingdom.
21 to 16. Yeah.
Can
you read what? Not early.
I can't read right now.
Okay. That's fine.
Let me read it first.
Mike.
All right.
20 to 16.
For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour, and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way. And again he went out about the sixth and ninth hour, and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out, and found others standing idle, and saith unto them, Why stand ye here all the day idle? They say unto him, Because no man hath hired us. He saith unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that shall ye receive. So when evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard saith unto his steward, Call the laborers, and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. And when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that they should have received more, and they likewise received every man a penny. And when they had received it, they murmured against the good man of the house, saying, These last have wrought but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which have borne the burden and heat of the day. But he answered one of them, and said, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Didst not thou agree with me for a penny? Take that thine is, and go thy way. I will give unto this last even as unto thee. Is it not lawful for me to do what I will with mine own? Is this thine evil eye, because I am good? So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen.
Can we read that somewhere else in Matthew? Many are called, few are chosen. I've read that. We read that somewhere.
Maybe, and he will also say it again in 21.
Okay.
Or 21? Yeah, 21.
So in this little story here,
Maybe 22.
household. Okay. So he goes out in the morning and hire laborers, right? He says, "I'll pay you a penny
Yeah, that
per person
Yeah, which is that
to
denarius.
work on my vineyard, right?"
Yeah.
And every hour he goes out and does the same thing. So essentially, those who start, let's just say from 8 to 5 p.m.
Well, so the day began at 6,
Okay.
and so like the
6. Okay, let's say 6 till
yeah
6.
So as they did it, they did it at what
So the first crew worked for 12 hours
Yeah.
and got paid a penny each.
yeah, and then we
and
went out
is
at
there
9,
someone
and
who-
12, and 3, and then 5.
Yeah, and then someone who started working at 5 p.m. also got paid a penny.
Mhm.
The first people who started, they worked for almost 12 hours,
Mhm.
around 12 hours, and got
Mhm.
paid a penny.
Mm-hmm.
And group that started at 5 p.m. worked for an hour and also got paid a penny.
Mm-hmm.
And the first group was like, dude, this is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We worked for so many more hours than the last group. And the owner says, let me see. I said, well, I didn't do any wrong. Did you not agree with it to the thing, to the arrangement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take that thine is and go that way. Give unto this last, even unto the what?
Take that thine is take what I gave you,
Mhm.
penny, and go your way.
Yeah.
I will give unto this last, even as I did to you, the ones that came last at the 11th
I
hour.
will give unto this last. Jason?
So I think he
14.
hired like different groups of people
Yeah.
to work, right?
Right.
Then all of a sudden the landowner said, hey, call them all and pay the last guy we hired first all the way to the first guy. So like pay him backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the workers are saying for the first group, they're like, dude, we work 5 hours. This guy's just worked 1 hour. We're
Right.
all getting paid the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you read 14 for me?
14.
Yeah.
Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you.
Okay.
Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money, or are you envious because I am generous?
Yeah, this is the
Then last shall be the first.
owner. He is
Yeah.
owner.
So he
He
basically
liked it
hired 3
to
groups.
Okay,
yeah.
so-
I think 5 groups. It was like 6, 9,
Or whatever.
12,
Just
yeah.
he hired multiple groups and they will all work different, but I think all of a sudden he was just like, hey, call them all and pay them, right?
Right.
And then I think some of the groups are going like, what the heck? Like, how are we getting paid the same when I already worked 3 hours, you just barely worked 1 hour.
Right.
He was like the part of the second group that worked 2 hours, and he's like, dude, why are we all getting paid the same? So the owner's going like,
Because-
dude, it's my money, I can
because-
do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Because he is owner.
Yeah.
He like to give you more. He doesn't like.
Scroll up.
He's not giving anybody more.
Yeah, he
He's
just
paying
say-
them all the same for
Same.
different work hours.
Yes,
Mhm.
I think he has authority.
Yeah.
Agreed to opinion and all this work. When it was starting late, he was saying that he wanted to be gracious to us, and that was his prerogative. The workers have no right to protest the patients of wages normally, except as someone says they had agreed to work in the sports race. Just as the owner is free to dispense wealth as he sees fit, God is free to dispense His grace as He determines.
This one's more of a note. I'm still kind of.
Yeah, so I actually want, so I'm wondering what's the analogies. The first worker hire represent people consider themselves to be greater importance to God. The last worker represents people.
Yeah, that one I just kind of copied that. I feel like more that I think I came across it somewhere where maybe those who, like, let's say at a company, those who have been there for the longest, they feel like they have a superiority and stuff like that, and they start getting that big head over like new people that came in and stuff like that. I think it has more something to do like that. And what's kind of interesting again is that this parable starts immediately after verse 30 of the previous one, which kind of almost ends the same way, except in reverse order. 30 says, "First shall be last, and last shall be first," and then in this parable it says, "The last shall be first, and the first shall last." But I feel more.
Yeah, I wonder what the moral of this story is. Matthew
So like, let's just say
20.
I feel like the first shall be last, last first, or even the last shall be first, the first last. I feel that has more to do with
I kind of understand when he says last. The last one, the first, which is when he says the first will be last, which means the wealthy people will get less favored, whereas the last, meaning the poor and the downtrodden, are more.
that sounds
Well, I think because
value.
if you read like a little bit earlier into it, when the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to the foreman, "Wait, hold on." It says, "He went out again at noon and about 3 in the afternoon and did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, 'Why have you been standing around here all day long doing nothing?' 'Because no one has hired us,' they answered. He said to them, 'You also go and work in my vineyard.' And when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to the foreman, 'Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first.'" So basically, there's like a whole crowd of people, right? It's like early in the morning, dude, you guys all work. Bam, they're working, right? Then later on, like the second crowd, hey, you guys all work. And there's people in the crowd, like at the end of the day, they're just like, dude, we have nothing. Like this looks like it's gonna be like a sorry day for us. We're not gonna get any work. But all of a sudden, boom, they're hired last, but yet they're getting still paid the same as all the people who worked earlier in the day. You know what I mean? First is last, last is first. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what's going on, but I think that he's really he's trying to see exactly what is the actual moral of that particular line.
I understand that. Okay, obviously the household homeowner it's a metaphor for heaven and Lord, right? So I think there's 2 points in this story. The first one being the master can do whatever he wants. It's his house, his money. It's just kind of God can do whatever he wants, who he wants to let in and who he wants to keep out the kingdom of heaven. Okay, fine, I'm okay with that. But if he just says poor people are generally more humble, therefore I like poor people better than I like wealthy people, because wealthy people tend to be more arrogant and entitled. Fine, I can accept that. But this first and last is like, so in this case, right? So you have group 1 who worked for 12 hours. They put in the most amount of time, and they get into heaven. They put in the most amount of time. They put in the most amount of work, and they get into heaven. And the people who only work for 1 hour put in the least amount of time, least amount of effort, and they also get into heaven. Is this something to do with like?
I think it goes back to like faith, right? It's kind of like those people that still hung around there, just like waiting, and they didn't even think that they were gonna get the job. Still, bam, got the job and still got paid the same. So it's like it's kind of like they had faith or something.
Okay, I think I figured it out. Maybe this is a metaphor for becoming a follower of Christ, right? You can become a follower of Christ at age 5, and when you die, you go to heaven, or you can become a follower of Christ literally on your deathbed and still go in heaven if it's sincere.
Kind of.
Maybe
it's like you have
for sure.
faith. And
I think that makes more sense, because I can't think of any other analogy like first and last, last and first.
Yeah. But to me, a lot of
Is it so-
the saying of the first, last, first kind of really. We'll get to at verse 26 and 27.
Okay, let's keep reading it.
But yeah, like it's kind of interesting how it does follow that last verse from chapter.
All right, I'll take this one. 17-34. Jesus again foretells death and resurrection. And Jesus, going out to Jerusalem, took 12 disciples apart in the way and said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests and unto the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death, and shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock, to scourge, and to crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. Oh, very specific here, unlike John.
Yeah, it's I guess in this particular book of Matthew, it's Jesus' 5th prediction of his death. Like first one was 1240 about Jonas.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then 16, I think that was after the transfiguration, or maybe before. And then saying about Elias 17, then 17, 22, 23. Like, every time he like has said it, it's like he's getting slightly more information. Like
Okay.
this time he's saying like
Hmm.
the last time I think he said he was going to be betrayed by one of his own. Yeah, be betrayed. That was in 17, 22, 23, and then this time he said he's going to be mocked and scourged by the Gentiles. So it's like giving more and more information
Okay.
as this goes along.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting.
All right. Are there more predictions to come as far as Matthew goes?
I think this might have been it.
This might be the last one.
Yeah.
Okay. 20. Mother's request. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her sons, worshipping him, and desiring certain things of him. And he said unto her, What wilt thou? She said unto him, Grant that these my two sons may sit, in the one on thy right hand, and the one on the left in thy kingdom. Both requests. And Jesus answered and said, Ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They said unto him, We are able. And he said unto them, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared for of my Father. And when the 10 heard it, they were moved with indignation against the two brethren. But Jesus called them unto him, and said, Ye know that the princes of the Gentile exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. And it shall not be so among you, but whosoever shall be great among you, let him be your minister. And whosoever shall be chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. 29. Jesus heals two blind men. As they departed from Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold, two blind men sitting by the wayside, when they heard that Jesus passed by, cried out, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. And the multitude rebuked them, because they should hold their peace. But they cried more, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. And Jesus stood still, and called them, and said, What will ye that I shall do unto you? And they said unto him, Lord, it is our eyes may be opened. So Jesus had compassion on them, and touched their eyes. Immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. Okay. 17. Jesus goes up to Jerusalem to tell his five disciples apart in the way, and said unto them, Behold, go to Jerusalem, the Son of Man shall be betrayed, and the chief priests and scribes, and they shall be condemned to death. They shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock, scourge, crucify him, and the third day shall rise again. Self-explanatory.
Dude, so he like talks about himself in the third person, right?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
Behold, we go to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed
The
unto the
mother's
sheep.
request. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with their sons, worshiping him and desiring him. And she said unto her, What wilt thou? It's like, what do you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
What wilt thou? She said to him, Grant these my two sons may sit on the left and right hand of the kingdom. And Jesus answered, Ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink from the cup I shall drink of, and be baptized in the baptism that I am baptized with?
Yeah, so he's kind of referring to like persecution and death.
Okay. Really?
And you know who these two sons are, right?
No.
They're James and John, the two apostles.
Oh.
You'll
Oh,
see
sure.
like in Matthew 4:21, and going from thence, he saw the other two brethren, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, the ship of Zebedee, the father.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was the mother, yeah, because the first two he called were Peter and Andrew.
I'm so bad with names.
So yeah, and then referring to the baptism and the cup that he drinks of, and the baptism, persecution and death. Like of course they both were persecuted, and James was actually killed by Herod the king in Acts 12:1-2. And John's always been persecuted. He was when he wrote Revelation. He was in prison, I think in like Paphos or something like that. Yeah, Patmos.
Patmos.
Yeah, I think it was like
Crete.
Crete or something like that.
Jesus Christ was in the isle that is called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ.
So that's why when he asked him, can you drink the cup that I drink of and be baptized? It's like, yeah, we are able. They didn't exactly know what he was
He's like,
saying.
oh
but
yeah,
it's
we'll drink some wine.
yes, you will.
He's like, oh yeah, you will. You are going to be persecuted, you're going to suffer, you're going to die just like me. But unlike me, you're not going to be resurrected.
Be resurrected into eternal life. He's not into physical and before ascension.
23. Ye shall drink indeed from my cup and be baptized with me with baptism I baptize you and sit with. But to sit with me on my left and right hand, it is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them from whom it is prepared of my Father. So he just says, oh, I can't promise you you'll be my left and right, you know, because the Father gets to decide. Which is another indication that this Trinity and Godhead thing doesn't jive.
Not necessarily,
Go on.
because we have to remember that Jesus is both man and divine. There's some portions where he's talking as just man. There's some portions where he's talking as.
How do you know when he's speaking as which?
It's hard to tell, but you know, just because he says words like this doesn't necessarily mean that there's three distinct, separate people.
What verse are you talking about?
23, the end of 23.
23. Because, you know, if I wasn't never heard of the concept of Trinity or Godhead, then I'm just reading the Bible. I don't think like, okay, this Father definitely has more authority over this Son character. And traditionally, when we talk about Father and Son in a familiar context, usually Father do have dominion, control, and more authority over the Son. You know, but yet, you know, in Christian traditions, they're painted like three equal parts. You know, and nothing I read in here suggests that these three elements are of the same essence and equal.
I can give you some books on that. If you want to read.
I'm not going to read books, but I will want to research more into this. I like to. I've never heard a convincing rebuttal to the whole concept of Trinity or.
Well, the two books that I have are pretty short. I don't know if you know, 50 pages.
50 pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some pretty good YouTube videos on it too.
Okay. Send this on my way. You shall drink from my cup, baptize with baptization. Okay. And with a 10.
Because you know, there's 12 disciples,
Uh-huh.
and 2 of them are basically trying to like.
Okay. Then they were moved with indignation against the two brothers. And Jesus called to them and said, you know the princes of Gentile exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise.
I need an interpretation too at first.
Yeah. What do you have?
It's still kind of hard for me to explain,
Okay.
but we could either. So you know, it's like the Gentiles kind of like have that hierarchy of like authority and stuff like that.
Let's see.
And for
Jesus looked at them and says,
no, that's wrong. Oh crap. That was the wrong word. My bad.
you have New International ready?
Yeah.
For what verse?
For
25.
20. Yeah, 25.
Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over to them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become a great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be the first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his
Yeah, right
life
here.
as
Okay.
a ransom for
No.
many.
2025. The disciples have plenty of examples of Gentile authorities to draw from. Their nation was occupied by Rome, which at the time was effective and efficient superpower. Rome grew to that status in part due commitment to authority and hierarchy. Roman authorities insisted on being recognized and respected. They allowed broad freedom to those who they conquered as long as those nations were submissive. Those who failed to bow received harshest of penalties. Jesus pointed to these Gentile rulers as a negative example of how to lead. He was not rejecting the idea of someone being in charge, yet he was calling out the Roman tendency to be authoritarian and demanding it be served and obeyed. In part, he is showing conflict amongst his disciples about who would hold highest position, the most power, was a worldly and spiritual ambition. Okay?
Yeah, so 25 is like he's giving the example of like how the Romans had like their hierarchy of authority and stuff like that. Like with the Caesar and the other rulers, underneath him, all hierarchical.
Go eat.
It shall not be so many.
But it's not going to be that way with
Oh.
the disciples.
Yeah. 26, but it shall not be so among you. But whosoever shall be great among you, let him be your minister. And whoever shall be chief among you, let him be your servant.
So what's kind of interesting is
Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many.
so the interesting part is like the Greek word for minister is the
Yeah.
kind of I guess close to like deacon,
Oh,
and then for servants it's doulos, which is slave.
mm.
So it's weird how like this says it's a servant, and then when they use the word servant, it's actually slave, But I guess that's like kind of like what he's trying to say is like whoever will be the great among you will be a servant for everybody. Whoever wants to be the greatest, you will be like a slave, like not even like because the servant was at least paid, for his services. So he's just doing it because he's not receiving anything. So that's where I kind of when he says like the first shall be last, last shall be first. This is really what I think about.
So what are you guys like discussing right now?
25.
25, 26, 27. Well, mine was more 26, 27. He's still.
26 actually. Must be a servant.
Yeah, I believe like NIV will
Okay.
probably translate.
Mother's
Yeah, it might be a
request.
servant, King James, ESV servant, King James minister, NASB servant.
But I think in
NIV
NIV, like
servant.
it says servant the first one, and then I think 27 will say slave.
Yeah.
This is 26 and 27.
So a mother's request, right?
Yeah.
So basically, she's just saying, hey, she wants like her sons to be saved and like to sit on his right and left side, right? And he's just saying, well, that's not for me to decide; it's for God to decide, right? And then what?
And then we're just kind of going over 25, 26, 27, and just the example, because like the other 10, like 24, when you continue that, like the other 10 were kind of like were upset that these two were trying to like get the highest positions and stuff like that. But what Jesus is telling all the disciples, all 12 of them, is that he compares like like the living rule right now under the Romans. It's like they have, you know, the Caesar, and then, you know, it's like a hierarchical type of leadership. You know, you give your respect or reverence or whatever. You obey those who are above you and stuff like that. But what Jesus is telling to the disciples, that this is not going to be the way for us moving forward, for you disciples and for you know, the church and stuff like that. He's saying that whoever wants to be the greatest among you will be as a servant. You know, whoever will be great will be a servant to others. And whosoever will be the greatest will be a slave to others. As opposed to, like, again, like,
Can you break it down to like normal English? Because like, I don't know.
No, like,
Because like some of your, I feel like some of your examples, it's kind of like, you know how we're having trouble like deciphering like what this is really meaning. Some of your examples is kind of like using the same wording in a sense. And it's just like, oh, it's just
so
kind of like more of the same confusion in a sense. You know what I mean?
a mother of two out of
Mhm.
Jesus' disciples came and was like, hey, when they die, my Lord, can you please make my sons your
Yeah.
current follower in the afterlife your left and right hand, which is
Yeah.
a high position, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
like,
just saying
my
like,
left
hey,
and right.
have my two sons be
Right,
right.
you look after my son, give him a
Yeah.
good.
He said it's not for me to decide; it's for
It's my father.
Father
right?
to decide.
Right,
And,
and
then
then
from
the
there,
other followers was like, oh, yo, what the hell? Why are these two guys trying to like score brownie points, right?
Yeah.
And then Jesus' response to that is like, you guys shouldn't care about these type of trivial things such as titles and positions, because the way it works is that if somebody wants to be
considered great.
like a manager, then that person ought to be your servant, right? Let's just, if I say to you, it's like, hey, Jason, I want to be the manager of this company. You're like, well, no, you know what? You get to freaking vacuum the floor. That's what you say. And then what if and the next one is like, well, I want to be a vice president. He's like, no, you get to scrub the toilet. Again, kind of going back to that first and last lesson. right?
Yeah, kind of, almost in a sense like, you know, leading by example, but leading, you know, if you want to be, like he says, great, like good, you know, do as much, you know, using the term servant is like someone who's, like, of course, you know, that term, but the difference between servant and slave is that a servant would get paid, kind of like, you know, like a butler at your house or something like that, versus like a slave who, like, is not getting paid, he's just doing your work. And that's kind of like the attitude that Jesus is trying to impart, is that, you know, if you want to be great, you want to just serve other people without any thought or care of getting anything in return.
But also, earlier we just read that all 12 disciples will be sitting in a throne in the kingdom of heaven, judging the 12 tribes, right? So, you know, it's obviously he said that as a good thing, right? It's like, hey, these are my 12 loyal, faithful followers, and they will be uniquely positioned.
Well, except for Judas, right?
Huh? Yeah, good. But that's what he said, you know. Where is it? We just read it, didn't we?
Yeah, it might have been in 20. Are you on 20? No, I mean 1990.
Let's see what he says.
28. 1928.
Verily I say unto you that ye have followed me in the regeneration when the Son of Man shall sit on a throne in his glory. Ye shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes. Right, so there is a throne in heaven. There's actually at least 12, if not more. So, you know, this is like the mixed message that you get from Jesus. One of many, right? First, he's like, you guys are my followers. You guys are special. And in the kingdom of heaven, there's 12 thrones where you get to judge. You get to sit and judge over the 12 tribes of Israel. And then just one chapter later, he's like, don't care about little trivial things such as power, positions, or titles. These things are not important.
I think he was like kind of
You know,
trying to, at least in that regard, you know, because the other 10 were starting to get mad at, like, you know, I was like, dude,
right.
there's-
You know, I mean,
you know, you're all gonna be there. Don't worry about it. But who wants to be the greatest? Then you gotta. You
it
know,
seems like to me
be
he'll
this way.
just I've noticed one thing Jesus has a habit of doing. He'll just say whatever he wants that is applicable in that situation. You know, he's armed with a wealth of knowledge and ability to speak and pull upon parables and references that, you know, because in this case, there's 10 gaining up on 2, right? They're mad at the 2. And you'll just kind of say something to diffuse the situation. There's nothing really wrong with that.
I don't necessarily think it was, I mean, yes, he did say something that kind of helped diffuse the situation,
Right.
but he was also alluding to the fact that, you know, that it's the way that, you know, how the physical world on earth kind of, you know,
Yeah, but if
view
you're
their
looking,
authority, it's not going to be the same way
if
that
you're
we
reading
do
this as you're looking for like teachings, right? Then there's a lack of consistency in what he's saying, because if we're breaking it down, like, okay, is there such a thing as power and positions and symbols of, you know, power over the others? Absolutely. You know, there's tons of examples of that. You know, but now what we're reading now, he's kind of telling his disciples. You know, if we're reading this as if it was like words of teaching, like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about, you know, those with powers, with job titles, because if you're motivated and if you want to be great, then you're going to be a servant, and if you want to be a chief, then you.
I think what he's saying is like you have to serve.
And, you know, there's always going to be, I guess, in a sense, kind of like a position of authority. But it's not something to strive for, is what he's trying to get at. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess
there always has to be some type of order to kind of keep things moving along properly and stuff like that, right? But the thing is, like, you know, it's not for them. Like, you don't want to let your pride get in that way. What you want to do is just do, and then God, Jesus, will call the one to be the authority, the one who, I guess, would be acting as a
This talking
slave.
about 26 or 22? Or 26
20,
to
20,
28, right?
26.
26,
Yeah.
okay.
26, 27.
I find it. And Jesus,
I think like when you guys say like, you know, you're slave, and it's more
Well,
to
that's
serve, not really like your slave. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the reason why I say slave is because, like, again,
That's
the
a
two
translation.
different words
Yeah,
were
I mean,
kind
it
of
says-
separate.
It says slave too, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. But I think, you know, it just means to serve people. You know, you just want to serve people.
Yeah.
If you want to be first, you should be serving.
yes, correct.
It's like whoever. It's all about serving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Not
serving,
being
I mean, I'm-
served,
it's-
but
it's-
serving.
yeah.
Okay, that's another interpretation.
You know what
I've
I'm
not
saying?
thought about. It's like, okay, if you want to be a leader, then you must.
You must serve everybody.
Okay.
It's not receiving and being
Yeah.
served. You must be doing the serving.
And that's what he kind of alludes to also in 28, is that he didn't come to, you know, to be served. He came to serve others.
Yeah. So he's saying, like, dude, if you guys want to be top dogs, you better start serving up everybody.
Yeah. And the only reason why I bring up the two distinctions, because again, like, you know, servant generally would be something that you do because you're being paid to be a servant, versus a slave is like you're just doing it because.
Yeah,
do it,
but
you
I
know.
don't think that the slave and the servant thing like really is like significant. I think the main thing is just, dude, serve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the slave thing
I think
shouldn't
the slave
really.
thing is more of like just like be a truly, like, you know, servant that cares nothing for any return. You know what I mean? It's the servant, but I feel like he used the word servant and changed it to slave at the end, because some people might think like, oh, servant, at least I'll get paid for this. But the whole idea is to actually to serve without care for getting compensated for it. You know what I mean?
Okay. See that makes more sense, right? It's like, because Jesus is all about being humble, being the humility. So it's like, if you want to be a leader, then you have to take care of those that you want to lead. Okay. Not
Well,
easy.
I'll add a little bit to that.
Yeah.
I think it's it's a really important part of the church because, like for example, at church, people look to me saying, "Oh, Jason, he's like, pastor and stuff like that," and I have to remind everybody, that's just my role. I am on equal standing with everybody else. In other words, this is what I do. But the person who is, serving lunch, the person who is, vacuuming the floor, which I still do. I will do all of those. We just have different roles. And so the idea that the first is last, the last is first, it kind of goes back to what you were saying and Mike was saying, the idea that there's this humility that we don't think about wanting to be above anybody else. Now, the apostles, for example, they were looked up to not because they thought they were super people, but just because they were wiser. They had more knowledge of Jesus. So they had to look up to them for kind of what they knew. And so the apostles were very happy to share with them what they knew. But they would never, ever hold it against somebody else saying, well, I was with Jesus, you weren't with Jesus. So in church, everybody really has an equal standing. We just all have a different role, which is why, the first being last, last being first is an important concept in the church because if anybody says that, yeah, I just want to be at the top, well, you're going to find yourself at the bottom. And if you say, well, I want to be at the bottom, you may find yourself, like Jesus told the story, at a place of honor. So the idea is, again, like Jason was saying, not to think too much about it, but just go ahead and serve it. That's kind of how I see it, because I've seen way too many problems in the church because everybody wanted to be an authority.
Yeah, funny you should say that. I thank you for sharing, JC. And for whatever reason, I actually do believe that you believe in this, that you're no better than your remainder of your congregation, and you're not someone who's above vacuuming or cleaning out the toilet if it needs to be done. But right as you were sharing that, I had a question to you, and I wanted to ask that you kind of already answered. So you almost like anticipated my question. And the question was, how prevalent is that attitude of yours amongst various church members and church quote unquote leaders, right? Maybe another congregation, another church, because we're all familiar with large mega churches, right? There's tremendous amount of money going to those establishments, and there are people with titles and positions. So I'm sure you've seen your fair amount of people who do not share your sentiments in terms of, in the context of first being last and last being first. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think what they ought to realize, and this is why my prayer is always, God, let me disappear. Because I have to be in a position where people have to see me. But then I'm reminded that in the Beatitudes, when Jesus said, let your light shine before men, that they, see your good works. But they give glory to your Father in heaven. And that's what I want. I want people to see me. I want people to say, hey, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
God, you're amazing. And that's what it ought to be. Jesus did say that those people, like you said, mega church people, and this is my question to them is, you have such standing, you have such popularity. Do you not remember when Jesus said that you have now gotten your reward on earth? And I don't think they realize that. And that's why I think it's much better for somebody, not to start a mega church. So the church that we are a part of, our tendency is to start another church somewhere else, so we don't get too big. And so we just, keep on, moving, so that no one church becomes so big that anybody becomes like one of those mega churches.
Yeah.
You just get a lot of money, a lot of people come, but nobody's really believing in Jesus because now they're just part of this huge organization.
Right. I mean, even mega churches, they start off small. I think that's interesting that for your church that you guys are thinking about multiplying rather than expanding existing. And I think that's probably better in terms of keeping things more sincere, more down to earth and relatable, rather than trying to build this mega behemoth of an organization. If you
Yeah, I
feel-
totally agree. And and the church that we started from, this guy, he started a whole bunch of churches, and he just kept sending pastors out to start yields.
Mm.
And that's how I eventually came to America. And that's how we ended up in Norco. Was church got too big, we had to have to move. And we have, I think, within our church, like the number of churches I've started, because we're not one system. We're not like Calvary Chapel or something where we're all connected somehow. We're just not. We are all independent. Now we help each other out.
Yeah.
We do. If a church is in need, we'll say, hey, we're in need. You have anybody to come do this? But there are probably like about 30 of the churches like this, starting from Taiwan.
Mm. Interesting. Okay.
26.
Let me see what Irene has to share. Jesus is not the importance of being derisiated. I don't even know what that word means.
Yeah,
Derisiated.
I don't know.
Look down
No.
look down
Oh,
the leaders
Okay.
situation.
He's just emphasizing that people who do leaders do need the correct motivation.
Yeah.
All of our people should be a servant, but some serve in different ways. The leader is of the godlings, and if you follow the example of Christ, you will choose the way of humility. Yes. Okay. So this, I read it wrong. I interpreted this wrong at the beginning. I thought it was he was writing his followers because they wanted power, and he was saying, "Oh, you don't want to seek power," but this is actually more a message of humility and
Yeah.
serving your community, which is follows of Christ. Thank you, JC. All right, were you good? Yeah. 29. Jesus heals 2 blind men. As they depart Jericho, a great multitude. There is almost says off like that so often. A great multitude follows. And behold, 2 blind men sitting by the wayside. We heard Jesus pass by, cried out, "Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David." Multitudes rebuked them because they should hold their peace, but they cried out more. Why should they hold their peace? 31.
just let him go, I guess.
Yes, so the people were walking by, Jesus is among them, and the 2 blind men is like, help us, Lord. And then everyone saying, hey, shut up. Why?
Maybe they
just because.
Maybe they just wanted to hear Jesus speak about some other things, or
Okay.
that's.
Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. Jesus stood still and called them. What will ye that I should do unto you? Okay, so that's saying like, what do you want me to do, right?
Yeah.
And said to them, say unto them, Lord, that our eyes may be open. Jesus had compassion and touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed. Okay. Is there
Yeah,
anything
because I
to
think that they were probably like just walking along their way and just like 2
random blind dudes?
yeah, we're just kind of like interrupting them in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the crowd was like, dude,
Shut up.
we're doing something right now,
We're walking here.
Yeah. So they yelled louder, and Jesus stopped and did his thing.
So here, when the pair cried out, the crowd apparently sees only 2 beggars asking for money. Beggars likely often shouted out, "Have mercy on us, pastor," by asking for donations.
Okay,
So maybe they just thought there was a regular
they're
beggars.
beggars.
Yeah,
It doesn't. King James Version doesn't say beggars. They
Yeah.
just say 2 blind men.
but yeah, who?
Well, I have a question about 28. Because we went back a little bit. Is that almost reads out of place? Was that in all the versions?
What do you mean?
28.
What about 20?
Even as a
Is that
son
in
of
all
man.
the versions?
Huh?
28. Is that in all the other versions?
Oh, you mean
translations?
Yeah, it's in NIV.
That's not
Yeah.
one. Also, okay. Just kind of reads out of place. Could be. I was wondering if it's maybe a later insertion.
It says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for
It
many.
has nothing to
Yeah.
do with what we're reading
No,
about.
it does. Because like you know, he was saying like again like
Oh, okay.
to them like you know those who want to be great, you know, serve. Just like I came not to be served, but to serve
Oh, okay.
others. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's interesting few chapters. You learn a lot.
And then yeah, this next one basically starts the Passion Week. Basically, we kind of read a little bit about the triumphal entry in John when he's riding on the donkey.
Okay. Okay.
So Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. And immediately their eyes received sight. See how it's like weird how it's worded that way? Their eyes immediately their eyes received sight and they followed him. Like I want to hear how they word like all the miracles. You know how this one it says, and immediately their eyes received sight and they followed him. The other ones were like something along the lines of like he
said
healed a
he-
blind man and now they opened their eyes or something like that. You know what I mean?
And then he saw. Yeah.
You know,
I don't even think it said they
a
saw
lot
it. It
of
just says they
can see.
opened their eyes or something
You
like
know,
that.
a lot of people at
Mhm.
the time, they can see, but they see Jesus, but they don't know Jesus is Lord, is Messiah.
Yeah.
But the blind can open eye, can see it, they understand that Jesus is Messiah. So this is funny.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to decide or think about is like, are these actually the miracles that we think they are, or are these actually like analogies of something else? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It
like-
is.
I didn't fix your vision.
Mhm.
I gave you the ability to see that there is a God that exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
It's like, are these actually miracles the way we think of them to be, or are they
if you-
just more
if you just read
something
that,
else?
then it's absolutely it's like we don't know, right? But given that we have read a lot already, and within this book, there's a pattern of having Jesus perform various amazing miracles. So, this book telling stories about him doing something miraculous, like
Mhm.
raising the dead, walking on water, turning food into a lot more food.
Yeah, but then is he actually doing that, or are these like just?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like, if
My-
like let's
my-
compare.
I
all
say
of
no
these.
because I don't believe in miracles.
Because there was another one where I think he touched their eyes and they just opened their eyes, but it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that they can see. You know what I
That
mean?
was
Like
actually
blind
something.
people can always open their eyes, but it doesn't mean that they're seeing anything.
Well, if they just open their eyelid, they're still blind, and
Yeah.
that's not very much of a miracle worth writing about.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's like, dude, are these or
9:30 was the one you're talking about.
9:30?
Yeah.
And their eyes. Then touched he their eyes, saying, according to your faith be it unto you. And their eyes were opened, and Jesus straightly charged them, saying, see that no man know it. See that
Their eyes open.
he touched their eyes and said that, and their eyes were opened, right? And then this one, it's like, Jesus had compassion on them, touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight. See how that's like so different from their eyes were open? Their eyes received sight. That's more of a straight up, they can
Sure.
see now, right?
Well, it stands to reason he has the ability to gain sight,
And they followed him.
and then he will likely do it again instead of. You know, can you imagine these two guys like, hey, I heard you cured blind people, give us sight. He's like, here, now you have the sight to see into heaven.
But they,
That's not what we asked for.
when they were departed, spread across him. I don't know. That's just like one of the things that have been kind of like looming in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Shall we wrap it up with a prayer? Sure. JC still there?
Yeah, I'm sitting.
You want to take us out?
Sure, I'll pray.
Thank you.
Father, I'm so grateful for being able to study your word here and learn more about what you have to say and what you think. But Father, we want to take this time and remember Ben. And Lord, we thank you for all the things that you do to comfort and to give hope. So Father, I pray that you will help us to just be grateful, Lord, for all you've done, in spite of us not understanding a lot of what happens. But we want to thank you that that you're still with us, that you still keep us with you. And Father, I ask that you would especially take care of Irene and just give her, Lord, all she needs to be at peace. So Father, thank you again for Winston and for Ben and Mike, and we pray for Isaiah, and we also pray that you will help us to always have this Bible study available to us and enjoy the fellowship that you gave to us. So Father, again, we thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for my brothers here, and I pray, Lord, that you'll bless them richly this week. And we pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks, JC.
All right, thanks, Benny.
All is well with you?
Later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Donald?
Facebook family and friends, thanks for joining us today. Yesterday was our dear friend Ben Payne's 1 year anniversary since his passing, so we're definitely keeping him in our thoughts. And this Bible study, this minister, if you will, would not really transpire if not for Ben. So in some way he brought us up together to have this little session. So, definitely for those who do know Ben, keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Till next week, bye everybody.